Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name's Andre and let's talk movies. The Old Guard was directed by Gina Prince-Bythewood and stars Charlize Theron as Andromache the Scythian. And to be honest, I think that would have made a great title, Andromache. Nevertheless, the screenplay was written by Greg Ruka, who adapted it from his own comic book series. The film was released in 2020 and a sequel is already on the way, so let's see what all the hype's about.
We were born alone, and we die alone. Oh, oh, oh.
The Old Guard is a film about a group of immortals who must fight to protect each other from capture and torment. The film follows them as they come into conflict with people who would do them harm in the name of the betterment of humanity. Though this is a comic book adaptation and an action movie, it begins with only a tease of action before introducing us to the team members. The scene shows us their friendship dynamic and tries to establish their relationship and ultimately invest the audience. Friendship is great, however, I find it kind of cringe when a movie introduces its characters by putting them in a social situation where we experience their dynamic as a group. I feel like when we watch group dynamic, it's hard to relate to any one character, and it ultimately tells us little about who they really are. In this case, I think it leads to a certain distance between us and the characters. However, later, Niall's character is set up in a very personal way. From the very first moment we see her, we get information about the kind of person she is, and therefore we care about her when weird things start happening. The difference in the way she is set up makes me feel like the team members are introduced in a more detached way on purpose. Their long lives and experienced trauma seems to have turned them into inaccessible people who are detached from general society. I feel like the film tries to reflect that by creating a kind of aura around these characters.
In our blood, in our veins. This is the world we made.
I believe this works particularly well for Andy because she's the main character and a lone wolf. She's like a walking history book that you just can't open. There are times, especially in the beginning, where she makes choices that seem unreasonable. However, we quickly learn that she's a quite closed off and inaccessible character.
What he said.
Her character becomes more fleshed out as we learn more about her history. The story that we get about Andy's past is amazingly gruesome, and I was on the edge of my seat. It gives us a view into her trauma, and it also serves as an explanation for the audience why it's so important to avoid capture. This scene helps us sympathize with Andy, but the other members of the team don't receive similar dives into their backstories, and we're left with shallower characters for it. Having underdeveloped characters is tough because it doesn't give us enough information about their motivations. There's one specific moment where a certain character does something, and Andy screams, "Why?" While I was sitting there asking the same question, why? Why was this the choice? It comes completely out of the blue. I guess that was kind of the point, to sweep the audience off their feet. However, for me, the film loses credibility by not showing us why this important character made this particular decision. I really feel like this comes back down to having all the main characters fleshed out by showing us more of the history they have experienced together. The story seems to keep a distance from their pasts, though, only ever touching on it lightly. They begin to be explored a little bit more when they meet Niall, but even when they're admitting to her how old they each are, very little is said about everyone, and only the one story is ever told. This makes Niall a pretty important character because she's more relatable, and she also helps us experience immortality in a way the rest of the team doesn't anymore.
You shot me. I did. I need you to get back in the car, please.
This isn't real. No, none of this is real.
You haven't figured this out yet?
I feel like the gold in this story is the history, and the film explores it, but not enough. It's not the simple fact of immortality, but the history they have experienced and experienced together that I think would transform them from soldiers in an action film to characters that we desperately want to know more about. The editing tells the story extremely well, and it complements the realistic and gritty style that we see in the production and the writing. The music is also not really like any other comic book movie, all big and boisterous, but way more down to earth. Visual effects are at a minimum for what you'd expect from a superhero movie. Characters have to rely on their acting to show both their physical and supernatural abilities. When visual effects come along, you barely notice them because they fit seamlessly into the action. The story isn't afraid to take its time, yet the editing is fast and sets a quick pace. Each shot gives us new information, and scenes feel straight to the point, like the story knows where it's taking you. The film also respects its audience and trusts us to infer meaning about characters and events from visual images. The action scenes are another great aspect of this film. They are very well choreographed with clear editing. It's so satisfying because you can actually follow along. There are times when some characters bust out moves that you just know come from a background of hundreds of years of training. If you decide to watch this movie, I'd suggest going in with a forgiving mind regarding characters. A lot is left unsaid, but there's a lot to learn about them from how they react to different situations. When I started thinking about the characters and what their inner lives might look like, I imagined that if you've lived for so long, then you probably have no regard for human life. You'd take your own life for granted, and you'd think of yourself as a god. Well, while they don't act like gods, I was surprised to find that a lot of their actions kind of reflect this thinking. In action scenes, teams of opponents get taken down fairly quickly, and the camera never lingers on their deaths, because neither do the characters. Other times they will use themselves as human shields because they think that if they die, it doesn't matter because they'll just come back. All in all, you can find deep characters if you go looking, like I have, especially in Andy. Andy and Niall are easily the best characters in this film because they're the two we get to know the best. I thought the team's motivations and relationships to each other could have been more developed had we had more information about what they've been through together in the past. Nevertheless, the film nails its realistic tone. We see it expressed in writing, editing, music, colors. Everything works together to create a realistic supernatural action film that was adapted from a comic book. The Old Guard, it manages to hook you through its interesting concept and realistic style. It's a comic book adaptation action movie with a twist, and it's worth the watch if you're in the mood for an awesome supernatural action movie that, if you use your imagination, could actually be happening in the world right now, but you just don't know about it. The Old Guard, have you seen it? Are you thinking about watching it? Are you just now hearing about it? Let me know down below. My name is Andre. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.